So now we're going to show you safety for the joiner. The joiner is a machine that's used to take an edge that is not flat or not smooth or finished, and you can actually send it through the machine and the knives will rotate and cut and surface the material. So actually in most situations where you're going to use that is if you have a piece of wood that has an edge that's not square or it's not flat, if there's some sort of a bow to it or whatever, and you can actually send it through the machine like this, and it will remove any imperfections from that piece of material. So the parts of the machine, your table, this is an 8-inch joiner, so it has 8-inch knives, and it has an 8-inch table. The table is where you lay the material and you send the piece of material through the machine. So your fence is the piece on the side here. The fence is also used for support with the table to help guide your piece of wood. This right here is a safety guard. The safety guard will swing open as the piece of wood goes through the knives to make sure that the knives are covered as much as possible. Your on-off switch is down here on the bottom, and then the last piece would be the knives on the machine itself. Now these knives are on a spinning drum. It's very similar to a planer in that they spin and the knives will cut very small amounts of material off. So this is all good to go, and we can actually set it up to send the material through. Now the other things we need to keep in mind for safety is that you want to stay shy of the blade right there. You want to keep your hands away from the blade as much as possible. So if you have something dangling down that could get caught into that blade, you want to try to kind of remove that. If I have long sleeves, it's even a good idea to roll your sleeves up to make sure that that doesn't get into the blade in any way. If it should get caught on that blade, it's going to pull you down into it, which is a major issue. The only other safety information is that you need to keep the material tight against the table, tight against the fence if possible, and you want to make sure that any kind of debris that is caused from you running the material through the machine is swept away with a brush or something else rather than leaving the machine running and sweep the material away with your hands. That's a bad choice. One other piece of safety information is that you want to make sure that you're not taking off too much material with each pass. You don't want to take off more than 1/8 of an inch of material with each pass. If you do, it's going to mess up the machine, and it'll actually mess up your material too. So if you do have to remove a bunch of material with the joiner, you want to make multiple passes. So if I have it set at 1/8 of an inch, I can make 3 passes to cut off 3/8 of an inch, for example. To adjust the height on the infeed table of this machine, you actually have to turn this crank right here on the bottom of the machine, and you'll see over here on the depth of cut scale how much you're removing with each pass. So I can actually crank this up or crank it down to remove more or less material. One thing you should never adjust is the outfeed table, because that has been set to the exact height of the knives on the spinning blade. So I will demonstrate how to send a piece of material through the planer, and we'll be good to go after that. So what you do here is you reach down, you turn the machine on, you lay the piece of material up against the fence, up against the table, and then you guide it through, making sure that your hands are no closer than 3 inches to the blade. There is a 3-inch minimum margin of safety with this machine, or a 2-inch minimum margin of safety. You do want to keep your hands at least 2 inches away from the blade. If you have a piece of material that is shorter than 2 inches, you do have to use some sort of a push stick or push block to keep your hands away from the machine. The other thing is you want to make sure your material is at least twice the length of the blades. For example, this is an 8-inch table with 8-inch blades. My material will need to be 16 inches long in order to send it through. I don't want to run something shorter than 16 inches through a table with 8-inch knives. So I have my wood all set up and ready to go. I can turn it on right here. Once you run the wood through, you'll be able to see if your edge that you've cut is now smooth and finished and ready to go.